The crystal chandelier cast a warm glow over my parents' dining room as everyone gathered for their 35th anniversary dinner. Mom had gone all out as usual: fine china, sterling silver cutlery, and expensive champagne that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. I adjusted my simple black dress, feeling distinctly underdressed compared to my sister Olivia's designer outfit. "Emma, you could have dressed up a little," Mom said with that familiar disapproving tone as I took my seat. "This is a special occasion." I bit back a retort. At 29, I was tired of defending my lifestyle choices. While Olivia had followed the path they'd laid out: prestigious university, high-powered finance career, engagement to a wealthy banker, I'd chosen to become a teacher, much to their endless disappointment. "Leave her alone, Diana," Dad said, but his tone suggested he agreed with Mom. "Let's focus on the good news we have to share." I sipped my water, watching as relatives filled the remaining seats. Aunt Margaret, Uncle James, cousins I barely saw except at these formal gatherings, all of them successful by my parents' standards, all of them ready to judge anyone who didn't meet those same standards. "Where's Jason?" Olivia asked, referring to my boyfriend of 2 years. "Couldn't afford the gas to drive here." I ignored the jab. Jason was working late at his engineering firm, finalizing a major project. Not that my family would understand the concept of actual work. Most of them had inherited their positions or married into money. "Now then," Dad stood, raising his champagne glass. "Diana and I are so happy to have everyone here to celebrate 35 wonderful years together. But we have another announcement to make." Mom beamed, reaching for Olivia's hand. "As you know, Olivia and Charles are getting married in 6 months. We want their wedding to be absolutely perfect." I could already feel where this was going. Every family gathering somehow turned into a celebration of Olivia's achievements. "The venue they've chosen is quite exclusive," Dad continued, his chest puffing with pride. "And to help give them the dream wedding they deserve, we've made an important decision." My mother's eyes sparkled with excitement. "We're selling the lake house." The lake house. My stomach dropped. The small cottage where I'd been living for the past 3 years. The only place that had ever felt truly mine. "What?" I managed to keep my voice steady, though my hands were shaking under the table. "Oh, don't worry, dear," Mom waved dismissively. "We'll give you plenty of time to move out. 3 weeks should be enough, right?" Olivia smirked. "It's not like you have many possessions to pack anyway." I thought about my carefully tended garden, the home office I'd set up, the memories I'd built there. "You can't sell it. That's my home." Actually, Dad's smile turned smug. "It's already sold. The papers just need to be signed tomorrow." The room spun slightly. Tomorrow. They'd arrange all this without even telling me. "Don't be dramatic, Emma," Mom said, noticing my expression. "It's just a house. And it's not like you were paying market rate rent anyway. We've been very generous letting you stay there so cheaply." If only they knew about the carefully orchestrated plan that had been in motion for the past 3 years. About the shell company I created, about the investment fund I'd built while living frugally and letting them believe I was struggling. "Who bought it?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Northern Lake Properties," Dad replied. "They made an excellent offer. Much more than that old place is worth, really." I reached for my bag, fingers brushing against the folder I'd brought just in case this moment arose. "Northern Lake Properties," I repeated slowly. "Interesting name." "Well, it doesn't matter what they're called," Olivia interjected. "The point is, the money will help fund my perfect day. It's not like you were doing anything important with that space anyway." The room hummed with murmured agreement. Of course they'd support this. In their world, Olivia's wedding was infinitely more important than my home. "Did you know," I said, keeping my voice casual as I pulled out the folder, "that Northern Lake Properties is actually a subsidiary of Summit Investment Group?" Dad frowned slightly. "What does that matter?" "And Summit Investment Group," I continued, laying out papers one by one, "is owned by Horizon Capital Partners." "Emma," Mom's voice held a warning tone. "Nobody cares about corporate structures. The point is," I cut in, finally pulling out the deed. "Horizon Capital Partners is my company. I established it 3 years ago, right before I moved into the lake house." The silence that fell over the room was absolute. Even the usually chattering cousins fell quiet, all eyes fixed on the documents I was spreading across the fine linen tablecloth. "What?" What are you talking about? Dad's voice had lost its smugness. I'm talking about the fact that I bought the lake house through my investment company 3 years ago. When you thought you were letting me live there cheaply, I was actually letting you believe you still owned it. Olivia's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering against the hardwood floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. That's impossible, Mom whispered. You're a teacher. You couldn't afford. I'm a teacher who also happens to run a successful investment firm. I corrected her. I just never saw the need to brag about it, unlike some people. Dad's face had turned an interesting shade of red. You're lying. Show me proof. I slid the deed across the table, along with documentation showing the complete ownership chain from Northern Lake Properties to my holding company. It's all here, I said quietly. Every legal document, every transfer, every corporate filing. The lake house has been mine for 3 years. You just signed a sale agreement with your own daughter. The silence in the room was deafening as my father examined every document with trembling hands. His reading glasses had slipped down his nose, and for the first time in my life, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. This can't be real, he muttered, flipping through the pages again. There must be some mistake. No mistake, I said calmly, pulling up my investment portfolio on my phone. Would you like to see the other properties I own? The apartment complex in downtown, the office building on 5th Street, or maybe you'd be interested in seeing who really owns the venue where Olivia's planning to have her wedding. Mom's hand flew to her chest. The Grand Plaza? That's yours too. I nodded. Through another subsidiary. I bought it last year when it went up for sale. Olivia's exclusive venue has been mine all along. But you live so simply, Aunt Margaret interjected, her voice wavering. Your clothes, your car. Because I understand the difference between showing wealth and building it, I replied, something this family seems to have forgotten. Olivia, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly found her voice. This isn't fair. You've been lying to us all this time, pretending to be poor, making us feel sorry for you. I turned to her, raising an eyebrow. Sorry for me? When did any of you feel sorry for me? You spent years mocking my choices, belittling my career, treating me like I was somehow less than you because I didn't flaunt my success. But you're a teacher, Mom stammered. How did you? Yes, I'm a teacher. I teach because I love it, because it matters. But did you ever wonder what I did with my evenings, my summers? While Olivia was posting photos of her luxury vacations, I was building an investment empire. Every time you made snide comments about my modest lifestyle, I was closing another major deal. Dad finally looked up from the documents, his face ashen. The sale agreement we signed is legally binding, I finished for him. You agreed to sell the lake house to Northern Lake Properties, my company, for $3 million. Except I already own it, so now you've essentially agreed to sell me something I bought years ago. Any decent lawyer would have a field day with this. The implications slowly dawned on their faces. They hadn't just lost control of the lake house. They'd exposed themselves to potential legal consequences. What are you going to do? Mom whispered. I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment. That depends. Are you ready to have a real conversation about respect? About family? About treating people with dignity regardless of what you think they're worth? Uncle James cleared his throat. Perhaps we should give them some privacy. No, I said firmly. Stay, you've all been part of this dynamic. All of you watched, laughed, participated in making me feel small. You should all hear this. I stood up, smoothing my simple dress, which actually cost more than Olivia's entire designer outfit. For years, I've watched this family worship money while forgetting about actual values. You measure worth by brand names and postcodes, not character and accomplishments. That's not true, Mom protested weakly. Isn't it? When was the last time anyone asked about my students, about the lives I'm helping to shape? All you cared about was that I wasn't making enough money, or so you thought. I pulled out another document from my bag. This is a draft lawsuit prepared by my legal team. It details every instance of attempted property fraud, including today's invalid sale agreement. It also includes evidence of tax evasion I've discovered in Dad's business dealings. Dad's face went from ashen to gray. You wouldn't. Try me. I met his gaze steadily. I spent years documenting everything, building my case while you were building your egos. Olivia jumped up, her chair scraping against the floor. You're just jealous. You're trying to ruin my wedding because you can't stand that I'm more successful. I laughed, the sound echoing in the tense room. Successful? Let's talk about success, sister dear. Your firm, Wellington Financial. I own 30% of its shares through one of my holding companies. That promotion you got last month? I voted for it during the board meeting. You don't even realize you've been working for me. She collapsed back into her chair, face drained of color. Now, I continued, gathering the documents back into my folder. Here's what's going to happen. The lake house stays mine, as it has been for 3 years. Dad's going to organize an independent audit of his business practices. And Olivia's wedding. I smiled. Well, the venue is still available, but you'll be paying full market rate. No family discount. You can't do this to us, Mom pleaded. We're your family. Exactly, you're my family, which is why you should have treated me with respect all along, instead of measuring my worth by my apparent bank balance. I stood up, picking up my bag. I have a meeting early tomorrow with my investment team. We're closing another major acquisition. But I'll leave you with this thought. While you were all busy looking down on me, I was quietly building something bigger than any of you could imagine. Wait, Dad called out as I reached the door. What do you want from us? I turned back, taking in their shocked faces, their shattered illusions. I want you to understand that success isn't about what you show the world. It's about what you build when no one's watching. I built an empire while you were busy mocking my choices. Maybe it's time for all of you to reconsider your definition of success. As I walked to my car, a modest hybrid that was actually an early prototype from a tech company I'd invested in, my phone buzzed. It was Jason. How did it go? He asked. Just as expected, I replied, smiling as I saw the lights still on in the dining room, imagining the chaos I'd left behind. They finally learned that the daughter they underestimated owns half their world. And the lake house. Still ours. Though I think we should host the next family gathering there. Give them a chance to see what real success looks like. I drove home to our beloved lake house, thinking about how different things would be now. The masks had fallen, the truth was out, and my family would never see me the same way again. But more importantly, they would never look at success the same way either. Sometimes the biggest achievements are the ones you build in silence, while others are busy judging your apparent failures. The next morning, as I sat in my real office, the top floor of a building I owned, reviewing acquisition proposals and investment opportunities, I received a flood of messages from family members. Apologies, explanations, attempts to align themselves with my newly revealed success. I left them all unread. They'd spent years showing me exactly who they were when they thought I had nothing. Now I would have to live with the knowledge that the daughter they dismissed as a failure had quietly become the most successful person in the room. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about revealing that you've already won, long before anyone else knew there was a game being played.
It was early morning, and the taxi park's garage buzzed with activity. Amanda, a young cab driver, had been working under her car's hood for half an hour, unaware of her surroundings. Suddenly, a deep voice interrupted her concentration. "Hello, Amanda. It's early morning and you're already tinkering with your car. What's wrong? Do you need help?" Amanda broke away from her work, stood up, and wiped the sweat off her forehead. She looked comical with smudged engine oil on her nose, holding a dirty rag and wrench instead of a manicure tool. "Hello, Barry. I've got it under control, thanks. There was an issue with the ignition, but I replaced the plugs, and now it starts perfectly. Let me wash my hands and we can have some coffee. I haven't even had breakfast yet, and I'm starving. Take out the cabbage pies I baked last night and help yourself." Barry eagerly rubbed his hands together and savored the treats. "Oh, Amanda, you're wonderful. These pies are delicious. You can fix cars, bake pies, and you're beautiful. What a pity I'm married and your fiancé is a fool. A smart girl like you should be cherished and protected." Amanda let out a heavy sigh, sat down beside him, took a sip of scalding aromatic coffee, and replied, "Don't be offended, but men, they're all the same. They love you at first, then they disappear into thin air. Well, I don't need anyone. I'll save up money, have a child, and raise him on my own. Just don't tell Mr. Farris that I'm pregnant. That money-hungry jerk will kick me out." Before Amanda could finish her meal, the radio beeped and the dispatcher informed her that she had to drive for a client. She shook hands with her colleague and drove off, humming a simple tune to herself. In reality, Amanda enjoyed working as a cab driver very much. The day was never boring, with interactions with different people and the opportunity to learn the latest news and interesting stories. However, there were occasional mishaps. If someone had told her 3 months ago that she would be working as a cab driver, she probably wouldn't have believed it. Amanda's childhood was spent in the countryside. Her mother passed away when she was only 5 years old due to a severe kidney disease, and she never knew her father. Her grandfather took on the responsibility of raising her to prevent her from ending up in an orphanage. He couldn't bear the thought of his granddaughter being alone. Amanda loved her life in the countryside, surrounded by endless wheat fields, open spaces, fragrant hay, and her favorite cat. Her grandfather adored her and taught her everything he knew, from mowing grass to driving and repairing their old Chevrolet. Together, they rebuilt the entire car. By the time Amanda turned 16, she could drive as well as any experienced person. She passed her driver's license exam on her first try, then decided to move to the city. Amanda realized that there were limited prospects in the village, as young people were leaving only the elderly residents behind. Her grandfather gave her his small savings, blessed her, and wished her well. Amanda rented a room and found a job as a waitress in a small cafe. She didn't particularly enjoy the job, as she was on her feet all day and her back would ache by the end of her shift. However, she needed to make a living somehow. Every day during her lunch break at the cafe, a young and handsome guy would visit. He always ordered coffee, sandwiches, and snacks, taking his time to enjoy them. He couldn't take his eyes off Amanda. The feeling was mutual, and she would feel a bit shy every time she served him. That's how they got to know each other. The guy's name was Stephen, and he worked as a manager in a nearby tour company. He lived with his parents, who worked as clerks in a bank. They were an ordinary family. Stephen showered Amanda with compliments, flirted with her, and one day he brought her a beautiful bouquet of delicate pink daisies, saying, "Daisies for my Amanda. You are as beautiful as these flowers. I think about you all the time. I would like to invite you to the movies. I already got 2 tickets for the premiere. Would you like to come?" Amanda agreed with pleasure, her heart racing with excitement. Thus began their courtship. Stephen met Amanda in the evenings after his shift, saw her home, and one day decided to stay for good. Amanda was ecstatically happy, hoping they would soon get married, as Stephen had hinted at several times. But everything changed when Amanda discovered she was pregnant. She took a test and felt a mix of fear and uncertainty. She and Stephen had not discussed children yet, and there was no wedding planned. She decided to tell Stephen everything that evening and see how he reacted. Stephen remained silent for a long time, a frown on his face, clearly displeased with the news. Amanda felt hurt and asked, "Hi, aren't you happy? It's our baby, yours and mine. We should hurry and get married before the belly is visible." "I suppose so," Stephen mumbled incoherently. "It's just too early. I thought you were using protection. Well, I'll talk to my parents and tell them everything." But after this conversation, Stephen disappeared. He didn't answer the phone and didn't show up for their lunch at the cafe. Amanda was exhausted and cried her eyes out, unable to understand what had happened. Why was Stephen behaving like this? Did he have a change of heart? Then someone told Amanda something that shattered her. "Amanda, don't get upset, but I saw your Stephen yesterday at the mall. He was walking arm in arm with some other woman, whispering sweet nothings. When he saw me, he turned away as if he didn't know me. I could be mistaken, but I think it's clear your Stephen has found someone else." Amanda cried uncontrollably, unable to believe it. How could it be? How could he? Maybe it's a mistake. What if she's a relative of his? I have to find out, otherwise I'll go crazy. Amanda excused herself from work and waited for Stephen outside his office. She waited for 2 hours. Finally, he came out, but he wasn't alone. He was with the same woman from the mall. They got in a fancy car and started passionately kissing. Amanda's heart sank, and she felt deeply offended. Losing control, she ran towards the car, banging on the glass and shouting, "Cheater, traitor! What about me? Aren't you ashamed, you scoundrel?" Frightened, Stephen jumped out, pushed Amanda away, and murmured, "Forgive me, it just happened. Peggy is now my fiancée. My parents decided it. I told them everything, and they forbade me from seeing you. Please go away, Amanda. It's over between us." Stunned, Amanda slapped Stephen hard and said, "But I'm pregnant with your child. What am I supposed to do now? Don't you care?" Stephen shrugged and said, "Well, I don't know. Go to the hospital and solve the problem. What's the big deal? Amanda, please stop screaming and go away." Then a wealthy woman emerged from the salon, giving Amanda a scornful look, and asked, "Who is this Stephen? What does this crazy woman want from you?" Stephen pushed Amanda away and replied, "It's nothing. She's just mistaken." Peggy approached Amanda, looked her in the eyes, and said harshly, "This sweetie is mine. I've decided it, and you better not get in my way. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble. My father has connections. I've warned you." Stephen and Peggy drove away, dousing Amanda from head to toe with water from a puddle. The poor girl stood in the middle of the parking lot, unable to move. It all felt like a nightmare, a terrible dream. Amanda couldn't bring herself to go to work. She cried at home for a week, consumed by grief and betrayal. There were even thoughts of going to the hospital to solve all her problems at once, but she was scared. What if something went wrong and she couldn't have children at all? How could she live with the guilt of ending a life? On one of those dark days, her neighbor Barry came to visit, asking for a stomach pill for his sick child. He forcefully took her to his home, where his wife joined them. They gave Amanda sedatives, hot tea, and patiently listened to her story. The girl needed someone to talk to pour out her soul, because the pain of her lover's betrayal was tearing her heart apart. She told everything without holding back any secrets. Barry listened, shook his head, remained silent, and then quietly asked, "Well, what a mess. Your Stephen is a jerk. What can I say? What are you going to do?" Amanda shrugged her shoulders and replied, "I missed a week at the cafe, so I was obviously kicked out. I'll have to go back home to the village. I should go back to my grandfather, but I don't know how I'll face him. I'm so ashamed, and I don't know how I'm going to make a living." Barry scratched the back of his head and said, "No, going back to the village is not a solution. What will you do there? Milk cows? Listen, you mentioned that you have a driver's license and drive well. Come and work at our taxi company. We're short of drivers, but our boss, Mr. Farris, is very watchful, so you'll need to be diligent. However, you'll earn a good monthly salary. If you're not lazy, you can save up money for labor and the baby, and then go on maternity leave. Just keep your pregnancy quiet, because if Mr. Farris finds out, he won't hire you." Amanda wiped her tears and looked at her neighbor with gratitude. "Thank you, Barry. This is my dream job. I've loved speed and roads since childhood, and I'm a skilled driver. Don't doubt it. I'll start a new life. I've had enough of that cafe. I'll come by tomorrow then, okay? Thank you, guys. I need to hurry and clean myself up. I look like a mess, swollen from crying." Barry's wife patted Amanda on the shoulders and said, "Good girl, Amanda. You can't give up. Why should you let this jerk ruin your life? When you give birth to your little one, you'll realize that their happiness is the most important thing to you. Everything will work out, and will help you. Don't worry." And so, Amanda found herself working at the taxi company. At first, Mr. Farris didn't believe that she would succeed. He questioned how she would handle heavy client luggage and fix the car if something went wrong on the road. But then he saw how confidently Amanda drove and how she could handle minor malfunctions on her own. She performed her duties well, so he decided to hire her. The girl perked up and cheered up. Now she had no time to dwell on her pain and cry. The whole day flew by as she drove and interacted with clients. She enjoyed the work, and Amanda went to it with joy. Her belly wasn't visible yet, and she wore loose sports hoodies and sweatshirts, so she could continue working almost until her maternity leave. Luckily, her health didn't let her down, and she didn't suffer much from morning sickness. Occasionally, her back would ache from sitting for long periods, but it was still better than carrying trays. The only thing that bothered Amanda was the intrusive and greedy owner. At the end of each shift, he demanded a minute-by-minute report. He even installed cameras in the cabin to monitor how the drivers interacted with customers and to ensure money wasn't being mishandled. Despite this, the team was excellent, and Amanda found it easier to work with men. There was no gossip or drama. Everyone was focused on their work. She remained friends with Barry, and they would drink tea from a thermos and talk about life. Today, Amanda had a lucrative order. She needed to drive far out of the city to pick up a client. The client promised to pay well just to be back in the city, so the earnings were expected to be good due to the long distance. Amanda was in a great mood, humming a song as she drove towards the client. She was already planning where she would place the crib and where to buy an affordable stroller. She calculated how much she needed for all these preparations. She tried not to dwell on the treacherous Stephen, although it was difficult. Sometimes tears would well up in her throat. However, she focused on her future and the upcoming arrival of her baby. Upon arriving at the requested location, Amanda's mood quickly faded. She found herself at a huge country mansion where a wild party was taking place. The client was extremely drunk and kept changing his mind about getting into the cab. 10 minutes later, the homeowner cancelled the call. Amanda felt upset because she had wasted gas and time without earning any income. She knew that Mr. Farris would scold her for this, but it wasn't her fault. Besides, the weather worsened with heavy rain pouring down from the frowning sky, further dampening Amanda's mood. She was halfway to town when suddenly a man emerged from the woods. He staggered from side to side, covered in mud and dried blood. The girl couldn't just pass him by, so she slowed down. She decided that if he was drunk, she wouldn't pick him up, but she wanted to see what was wrong with him. She put on her hooded jacket and jumped out of the car. She ran up to the man and took a closer look. "Hey, are you sick? Can I help you? Where are you going? If you're headed to the city, I can give you a ride," Amanda offered. The man looked at her with cloudy eyes and whispered weakly, "Help me." After that, he lost consciousness and fell by the roadside. He didn't smell of alcohol, that was for sure. Amanda slapped his cheeks, pleading, "Wake up. I can't get you to the car alone. Come on, let's go." After much effort, the girl managed to get the man into the car and drove him to the hospital. Along the way, she tried to find out more about him, but he only said that his name was Mitchell and moaned in pain. Amanda handed her passenger over to the medical staff, ensuring he was properly cared for. As she bid him goodbye, she said, "Well, I helped as much as I could. Get well. All the best to you." The girl hurried back to the taxi park, realizing that she had been delayed and worried that Mr. Farris would be angry. She had forgotten about the camera in the car, but her boss was sitting in his office watching all her movements. He was furious and reprimanded her as soon as she arrived. "What do you think you're doing? You refused to drive the client, wasted my gasoline, and spent half a day driving around homeless people. I lost so much money because of you." Amanda was almost in tears as she defended herself. "Why are you talking to me like that? The client wasn't well and cancelled the ride. This poor man, I picked him up on the way back. What was I supposed to do? Leave him to die on the highway?" Enraged, Mr. Farris shouted even more, "You'll pay for saving him out of your own pocket. I'll deduct the cost of the gasoline from your salary and take away your bonus so others won't get similar ideas. Now get back to work. You're all out of control, doing whatever you want. And don't forget to clean the car, it's covered in dirt. How will decent people get in it now?" Amanda angrily washed the car, thinking to herself, "Well, that's how you get rewarded for doing good deeds. You're left with nothing. What a scoundrel Mr. Farris is. Nothing is sacred." Exhausted and sad, she finished her shift, went home, and fell asleep immediately after taking a shower. She had no energy left. The next morning, Amanda was awoken by a knocking on her door. She was surprised to find 3 well-dressed men, 2 of them bodyguards, standing outside. An unpleasant older man, clearly the big boss, entered without invitation and greeted her, "Good morning. Your name is Amanda, isn't it? You saved my son yesterday, picked him up on the road, and sent him to the hospital. I'm truly grateful to you. Thank you for not letting a man die." Saying this, he placed a puffy envelope on the table. Amanda waved her hands in amazement, saying, "No need. I just felt sorry for him. The poor guy was badly beaten, barely able to walk, and was in rags. How did he end up in that wooded area?" The businessman seemed taken aback by the question, but still answered, "You understand, it's an unpleasant story. My son was kidnapped by bandits and held captive in a cabin in the woods. He managed to escape miraculously and tried to make his way home. Did he say anything to you on the way?" Amanda shook her head. "No, he didn't. He was in a lot of pain and only introduced himself as Mitchell, that's all." The man grinned and said, "Well, that's probably the best news today. All right, we got to go. Take the money. Have a good day." The trio left, and Amanda ran to the window and gasped. There was a whole motorcade of jeeps outside. She counted 4 of them. She then opened the envelope and found a huge sum of money, far beyond what she had expected. Clearly, this wasn't just a simple gesture of gratitude. Pondering the situation, Amanda couldn't shake off a feeling of unease. Something was wrong. First of all, this polished big shot didn't seem like a worried father at all. His eyes were cold and calculating. Secondly, why had he asked so many questions if his son had simply been found? There was something they were hiding. Thirdly, how did this man learn everything about her so quickly? Most importantly, why did he come to her personally, and was this money really a token of gratitude, or was it payment for her silence? Determined to get to the bottom of things, Amanda decided she needed to visit Mitchell at the hospital. She bought some treats on the way and headed to the trauma department, where she had left him the day before. However, she was not allowed to see him. "Why can't I visit my friend? I won't be long. I'll just ask how he's doing," she pleaded. The doctor himself came down and spoke to her sternly. "Unfortunately, we can't let you see Mitchell Liebman. He suddenly fell into a coma and is now in the intensive care unit. It is forbidden to enter there. You'd have no reason to be here." "Excuse me." Amanda was shocked. "A coma? Yesterday he was weak and beaten, but he was walking on his own. What's wrong with him?" The doctor waved her away angrily. "Why should I report to you? Who aided him? His father's with him and knows everything. They'll let you know when you can visit, but for now, his condition is extremely serious. I don't have time to argue with you. I have other patients waiting. Have a wonderful day." Amanda, deeply upset, began to leave the hospital. But then a nurse caught up with her and led her to a back room, whispering, "It's not as the doctor said. You're Mitchell's fiancé, aren't you? I guessed it right away. There's something wrong here. He's not in a coma. He's just being dosed with some powerful drug, and it's unclear why. I noticed that the respectable man who seemed to be his father gave the doctor a big envelope of money and asked him to make sure Mitchell never left the hospital. His wounds weren't serious. I think the doctor sold his soul to the devil because he's an avid gambler and needs money. I know this because I have a cousin who suffers from this addiction. I've seen the doctor several times at the casino when I went to get my cousin out of there. I'm telling you the truth, but don't give me away, okay? They'd fire me or ruin my life. All right, I need to go." Amanda was in shock. She didn't know what to do or how to help Mitchell. She scolded herself, thinking, "Here I go, getting involved in someone else's problems when I have enough of my own. What a foolish character I have." Tormented with worries and doubts, Amanda couldn't sleep a wink that night. By morning, she was sure she wouldn't be able to live peacefully if she didn't save Mitchell. After all, he was her age. Why should he die? It wasn't right or fair. Her first impulse was to go to the police and tell them everything she knew, but she quickly reconsidered. If the rich man had enough money and connections to buy everyone and everything, he probably had people in the police force too. And what could she charge him with? It was all just rumors without any proof. The worst part was that there was no one to consult. Then Amanda remembered the nurse, Deborah. She decided to talk to her again, arranging a meeting at a cafe. Surprised, Deborah arrived on time. Amanda started, I'm sorry to bother you again. It's just that I have no one else to turn to. I can't tell anyone about this. They won't believe it. Please help me save Mitchell. I want to get him out of the hospital. I can get a car and drive, but how can I get him out? He's in a coma." Deborah paused for a moment before replying, "Okay, let's think this through. I have the night shift the day after tomorrow, on Saturday. The ward will be quieter with fewer people on duty. Mitchell's doctor has Sunday off. I can refrain from giving him the medication, so he should wake up in about 12 to 16 hours. I'll provide you with a white coat, a cap, and a mask to ensure no one recognizes you. We'll give you a name tag stating you're a doctor. We'll try to handle this ourselves. I don't trust anyone else completely. The only issue is what to say when they notice he's missing, which will likely happen during my shift. I could be fired for this, but you know what? Let them fire me." Amanda sighed and replied, "I don't have a perfect plan. I'll take him to my place. I have nowhere else. Once he wakes up and tells us who kidnapped him and why, we'll go to the prosecutor's office and let them handle it." They agreed on the plan. Amanda was so nervous over the next few days that she could barely focus on her work. On the designated day, she trembled occasionally, terrified of what might go wrong. What if Mitchell didn't wake up? But it was too late to retreat. That night, Amanda turned off the camera after her last order and drove to the hospital. She changed her clothes as Deborah had instructed, crossed herself, exhaled, and went straight to the ICU. Deborah was already waiting for her. Together, they placed Mitchell on a gurney and hurriedly wheeled him towards the exit. The gurney rattled on the tile floor of the deserted corridor, causing Amanda's heart to race. She silently prayed that no one would question their actions. Thankfully, everything went smoothly. At this late hour, all the patients were asleep, including the doctor on duty. Once they had Mitchell in the backseat of Amanda's car, Deborah quickly returned to her post, whispering a goodbye. "Be careful, Amanda. I wish you and your fiancé a speedy recovery. I've packed the necessary medications and written down the instructions for you. Now, I need to hurry before they find me." Amanda drove like a madwoman, her heart pounding. She felt like a criminal, constantly looking around and fearing someone might be following her. When she reached her house, she called Barry, her neighbor, and whispered urgently into the receiver, "Barry, could you come out for a minute? I need your help. I apologize for being so late." Barry was shocked when he saw the unconscious guy in the back seat. Amanda pleaded, "Help me, don't just stand there. I can't lift him by myself. We need to get him to my room. Just don't ask me anything right now, okay? I'll explain everything later, I promise." Without hesitation, Barry helped carry Mitchell into the room and placed him on the sofa. He asked, "What are you doing, Amanda? Why did you bring him here? Did you take the car from the taxi company? Mr. Ferris will be furious. Did anyone see you?" Amanda shook her head, replying, "Nobody saw me. I turned off the camera. You won't betray me, will you? I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm trying to save this man's life. Do you believe me?" Barry simply waved his hand and said, "I know you're a good person and you wouldn't harm anyone. Of course, I believe you. But please, keep me out of your business. I have a family and 2 children. I won't tell anyone, but I don't want to know too much. I'm going home." I did what I could. Amanda returned the car to the taxi company without any issues. The guards treated her well, and she was confident they wouldn't report her. However, she couldn't stop trembling from the events and emotions of the evening. The girl arrived home on the last bus, checked that Mitchell was breathing evenly, and collapsed beside him, exhausted. She was worried and cried, "God, what have I gotten myself into? Barry is right. It's very dangerous. And if this rich man finds me, what will happen to me? What about Mitchell? I don't even have anyone to protect me. This isn't life, it's a detective story, and I'm starring in it. How scary. But at least I saved a man. That's something to be happy about." 13 hours passed, and Mitchell finally regained consciousness. He squinted from the sunlight and looked around, disoriented. "Excuse me, miss, where am I? Why am I not in the hospital? Oh, I seem to remember you. You're the cab driver who saved me on the highway. I never said thank you. Amanda grinned and replied, "I'll tell you such a story that you'll have to thank me again, though I'm taking a big risk." But still, she proceeded to tell Mitchell everything she knew about his alleged father, the drugs he had been given, and her own pregnancy. She needed to share it all with someone to free her soul. The young man listened attentively, not interrupting, and remained silent for a long time. Then he began to tell his own story. "Yes, he is not my father, but to make you understand, I'll start from my birth. It's a long and complicated story. My parents were very well off. My father was a businessman who owned a network of hotels in the city and region. My mother was a psychologist who helped famous people. When I was 3 years old, my father faced threats from bandits who demanded he hand over the business or they would kill him and our family. That's when my dad wrote his will, stating that all his property and money would belong to me when I turned 25. I think it was because of this that all the trouble started. I'm turning 25 in a month. My father had a close companion named Hank Long, who was also a distant relative. My father trusted him completely. After the threats, the criminals attacked my father and shot him in the car. My mom, from grief and stress, became ill. She had always had a weak heart and passed away soon after. I was left orphaned at the age of 3. Mr. Long, my father's companion, took me in and became my guardian. He is the one who visited you. Mr. Long took control of my father's business and always made me feel indebted to him for not sending me to an orphanage. He treated me indifferently, neither loving nor harming me. When I was 13, he married a young woman, and I became even more of a burden. I was sent to study at a prestigious private school in England and then went on to university. Finally, I began to return home and start my own business. However, my stepfather wanted to continue controlling me. I accidentally discovered the existence of my father's will when I visited my former nanny. She had been with me during those difficult times and knew everything but kept silent. Then I had a disagreement with my stepfather and started looking for the notary who had the will. That's when everything went wrong. I began receiving threatening phone calls telling me to leave town. I didn't pay much attention to them at first, but a week later, I was kidnapped by some bandits. They kept me captive in an abandoned cabin in the forest, beating me and demanding I refute the will. Luckily, I managed to escape. The opportunity presented itself when one of the bandits left, and I requested to go to the bathroom. Normally, they would take me out with 2 guys. We moved away from the cabin, and I seized the moment to fight back. I don't remember exactly how I broke free and ran. I hid in a hole covered with leaves and stayed there for 24 hours. Eventually, I made it out and wandered aimlessly until I found the road, and that's where you found me. Now, I have no doubt who was behind my kidnapping and who benefited from abandoning me." Amanda clasped her hands together. "It's obvious, Mitchell. Of course, it's your stepfather. Who else could it be? We must immediately go to the police, the prosecutor's office, and sound the alarm. He won't rest until he eliminates you." Mitchell replied cautiously, "That's right. I just don't understand why my stepfather didn't try to eliminate me before when I was still a child. After all, the will states that if I cannot inherit for some reason, Mr. Long will get everything." Amanda said, "So you were incredibly lucky. Your stepfather simply didn't know about the existence of the will and learned about it only recently from you. But I'm sure he had something to do with your abduction. I saw his eyes, cold, calculating, and evil." Amanda took Mitchell to the prosecutor's office, where he told them all about his misfortunes. Then they went to the police. The wheel of justice spun, and a criminal case was opened. After a long and painstaking investigation, horrifying details from the past surfaced. It turned out that Mr. Long not only organized and paid for the kidnapping of Mitchell, but also had a hand in the murder of his father. Mitchell could not believe it. He was shaking as he asked the investigator to arrange a meeting with his stepfather. He wanted to look him in the eye and ask him just one question. Why? Mitchell thought that now his stepfather would repent and ask for forgiveness because he was facing a life sentence. But no, this scoundrel behaved brazenly and swaggered. "Well, Mitchell, are you happy now?" "Yes, I'm getting old. I'm getting sentimental. I was weak, and they didn't kill you at once there in the forest. I was dragging you along. You were like a son to me." Mitchell choked on his words at such insolence. "A son, you say? How can you say such a thing? You've been telling me since childhood that you would find my father's killers, that you were grieving for them, that you were grateful to him. But you gave the order to eliminate him with your own hands. Because of you, my mom died soon after. You ruined my life. Why didn't you eliminate me before? Why did you pay for me to stay in a private school for so many years? You never loved me. I know you just tolerated me." The businessman grinned wickedly. "I felt sorry for you at first, so I sent you away to study. In addition, I had an impeccable reputation in high society because I took it upon myself to educate the son of my late partner. It kept suspicion away from me, and I was respected by everyone. And now you've come back to spoil my plans. It was only when you blabbed about the will recently that I got a headache. I couldn't let you inherit everything too easily. I've spent all these years developing the business, investing my time and energy, and now it's all going to you. No way. I thought of everything, calculated everything, but you managed to escape from the forest cabin while I was still hesitating whether to get rid of you now or later. And I would have succeeded if it hadn't been for that stupid cab driver. First, she picked you up on the road, and then she drove you out of the hospital. I hate her. That viper ruined my whole plan." Mitchell was outraged. "Don't you dare insult Amanda. She's the best girl in the world. She saved my life twice from you, by the way, Daddy. Well, you'll never get away with it now. You'll pay for everything." Mr. Long pitched forward and hissed angrily. "You are very wrong, puppy. I have such connections, such opportunities that I'll be free again very soon. You'll see." But the court decided everything justly, and the businessman murderer received a harsh punishment. Now, instead of a luxurious, happy life, a prison cell awaited him for the rest of his life. He shouted in court how much he hated Amanda, blaming her for everything. After all, it was she who prevented him from becoming even richer and more successful and saved his unloved stepson. Mitchell took the helm of the company and plunged headlong into work. He and Amanda often saw each other, were friends, and socialized. In fact, Mitchell was secretly in love with the girl. He had never met anyone like her before. He admired everything about her: her cheerful laugh, her mischievous nature, her beautiful wheaten curls, and her kind, affectionate eyes. However, he couldn't confess his feelings because she was pregnant with another man's child and preparing for childbirth. He believed that confessing now would insult her and destroy their warm, trusting relationship. So Mitchell chose to take care of her and support her instead. He insisted that Amanda move out of her tiny, old housing, and he rented a cozy apartment for her. He also urged her to stop working as a taxi driver since her growing belly made it impossible to hide the pregnancy, and her employer, Mr. Ferris, wouldn't pay her maternity leave and might even terminate her retroactively. Mitchell provided financial assistance to Amanda and made sure she had everything she needed. "The way you spoil me, Mitchell. No one has ever cared for me like this." "Thank you so much. It's a pity I had to quit driving a cab. I really enjoyed that job." "Sitting in four walls is boring," Amanda said, feeling touched and uncomfortable with the level of care. Mitchell looked into her eyes and replied quietly, "Amanda, this is the least I can do for you. You're not a stranger to me now. In fact, you're the closest person to me. Don't worry. Soon, you'll give birth to a baby boy, and there won't be a dull moment. I'll be there to pick you up from the hospital. Will you take me as the godfather?" Moved to tears, Amanda replied softly, "Of course. What are you even asking? You know, Mitchell, I feel so comfortable and calm with you more than with anyone else. Why didn't we meet earlier? It's a pity nothing can change that." Amanda's heart was also filled with love for Mitchell. She was drawn to him like a magnet, but she didn't dare entertain such thoughts. She kept reminding herself, "Don't dream about him. Why would he want someone else's child? Don't ruin his life. But then, why does he care about me so much? Not every man would do that. Is it just out of gratitude? I have to convince myself that he's just a friend. That's all. There can never be anything more between us." Amanda exhausted herself with worries and doubts, and there was no one she could talk to about it. One day, while walking from the women's clinic, she ran into Deborah, the nurse who had helped her save Mitchell. Both women were delighted to see each other and decided to have lunch at a cafe and talk about everything. "Oh dear, pregnancy suits you," Deborah said with a laugh. "You look so much better, positively glowing. Well, tell me, how did your detective story with the kidnapping end? I've thought of you often." "I almost got fired and was scolded for a long time. I had to write an explanation letter, and they revoked my bonus. But it was worth it. You should have seen the doctor's face when he couldn't find his paid patient in the morning. Oh, what an uproar. Eventually, the investigation started, and our corrupt doctor was finally removed from his position. He was scared and tried to dodge, hoping everyone would keep silent about his dark deeds. But many people were tired of his actions. He also got sentenced and is now in jail. He deserves it. And I even got promoted to head nurse." "That's right, so I have to thank you." Amanda smiled and said, "Congratulations, you deserve it. I've thought of you often too. Sometimes you just want to talk to someone knowing that they will understand and listen without judgment." "As for my pregnancy, it's a complicated story." Amanda told Deborah everything about her ex-boyfriend. Deborah only shook her head and wondered, "You're really something, my friend. I admire you. To be honest, you're so brave, deciding to take a risk for the sake of strangers and even being pregnant. It's worth a lot. Your Mitchell should kiss your feet. And take my advice, don't torture yourself in vain. Just trust your heart and fate. Everything will be as it should be, believe me. Give birth to your baby, love him, nurture him. It is the greatest happiness. If Mitchell really loves you, sooner or later, he will reveal this. And the child is not a hindrance. I was foolish in my youth. I had a fight with my fiancé, and I terminated my pregnancy quickly without thinking. I took a sin on my soul, and now I'm 37, with neither children nor a husband. Do you know how many times I've regretted what I did? I could have raised a baby and not felt lonely." "That's right, you're a good listener, Deborah," Amanda said, taking Deborah's hand. "Thank you for all you've done for me. Please visit me from time to time. I'd be pleased. Honestly, I've never had any real friends, and I trust you. I feel you're a good person, so let's be friends." Deborah rejoiced. "I'm all for it. I have Sunday off. If you like, let's go for a walk, look for some interesting baby things, fashionable strollers, and have a chat." From that day on, Amanda and Deborah became thick as thieves. The women had a lot to talk about. They were somehow close to each other internally, just like sisters. When Amanda had contractions in the middle of the night, she didn't hesitate to call Deborah. "I apologize for calling at night. I think it's starting. My belly hurts so much, then squeeze, then let go. No strength. I'm so scared. What should I do?" Deborah woke up immediately and started giving her commands. "First of all, calm down. I will organize transport for you. Get dressed, get ready, and wait for me. I'll be right back. Don't forget the most important things and documents. Remember, everything's going to be okay. Dr. Brewster is a great obstetrician, and she's on shift today. And I'll be there for you." Then, Deborah called Mitchell herself. "Wake up, Romeo. Your Juliet is giving birth. Let's go help." Already in 30 minutes, Amanda was taken to the labor room. Deborah and Mitchell stayed, waiting in the corridor. Mitchell was very nervous, pacing back and forth, and asked Deborah, "You're a medical professional. Tell me, will Amanda be all right? Why hasn't she given birth yet? Maybe something went wrong." The nurse started to cheer him up, pouring some coffee from the machine. "Calm down, you men are so fast. This process can even last for 24 hours. Better admit, do you love her?" Mitchell was embarrassed but answered honestly, "Very much, more than life. And I don't know what to do about it." Deborah laughed. "Oh, you're hilarious. What is there to think? If you love her, get married and raise the boy with her. You both are so funny, suffering in the corners and pretending that you're just friends." Mitchell got excited. "And you think she loves me too?" "I'm afraid to tell her. I think I might offend her. I can't sleep or eat. She's always in my head," Mitchell confessed, his anxiety palpable. Deborah confirmed, "Yes, she does. Believe me, be more decisive, Mitchell. We girls are romantic by nature. We always expect the first step from a man. Finally, a nurse came out and announced, "Well, Daddy, congratulations. You've got a big boy." Amanda barely gave birth to him. Thank God, all without complications. Deborah winked at Mitchell, saying, "Well, I told you everything would be fine. Go get some sleep, you lucky boy, and I'll try, as a medical professional, to check on my friend." Amanda smiled blissfully as she held her baby close to her chest. All the pain and agony she had endured during the hours of labor seemed insignificant now as she looked at her son. The name Mark came to her mind effortlessly. It didn't matter who the father was, what mattered was that he was her own flesh and blood. Her life was forever changed, no longer belonging to just herself. The door opened and Deborah entered the room, quietly approaching her friend. She kissed Amanda and exclaimed, "Congratulations, Amanda. Who do we have here? Look how serious he is, frowning like an old man. Come on, smile." Amanda laughed and replied, "Well, to be honest, it wasn't easy. The doctors were concerned that I couldn't do it on my own, but Mark and I pushed through, and now here he is, my little miracle." "Where's Mitchell? Did he go home?" Deborah chuckled and said, "I doubt he left. You should have seen how worried he was about you. He paced like a caged tiger, bombarding me with questions. He loves you, Amanda, that's for sure. I think he'll propose to you soon. Will I be your maid of honor?" Amanda's heart skipped a beat, and she exclaimed, "You think so? I'm so grateful that both of you are here, that you both appeared in my life. I was pregnant and alone, with only my neighbor's support." Deborah smiled and said, "I'll be happy to babysit the little serious baby. I know he will grow fond of me." On discharge day, Mitchell arrived dressed in an expensive suit with a bouquet of flowers. Deborah had been with Amanda all morning, helping her get ready, curling her hair with a curling iron and teasing her. "Your Romeo is downstairs waiting impatiently." Confused, Amanda asked Deborah, "What is all this? It feels like we're getting ready for a party. I'm just being discharged. Why all the expensive outfits?" The nurse chuckled and replied, "Who knows, who knows? One thing I can tell you is that you're in for a surprise." As Amanda stepped outside, Mitchell rushed to her side while Deborah took little Mark in her arms. Mitchell took out a beautiful box from his pocket and opened it. "Dear Amanda, I congratulate you on the birth of your son. I want to put this ring on your finger as a symbol that we are more than friends now. I love you, darling, and I want you to become my wife. Will you marry me?" The nurses applauded, and the sound of a champagne bottle being opened filled the air. Even the elderly janitor paused his work to witness the scene. Overwhelmed with emotions, Amanda sobbed and whispered, "I agree. I love you too, and I can't help it," Deborah exclaimed, clapping her hands and raising a glass of champagne. She was genuinely happy that two loving hearts were finally united. Amanda moved into Mitchell's mansion, and the couple officially tied the knot. Mitchell adopted Mark, giving him his surname. 3 years passed, and Amanda and Mitchell lived harmoniously. Amanda deeply appreciated her husband's loyalty, devotion, generosity, and care, and she never regretted marrying Mitchell. One February, amidst cold frosts and snowstorms, Mitchell suddenly suggested, "Darling, why don't we go to a warm sea resort? What's stopping us? We'll warm ourselves in the sun. What do you think?" Amanda squealed with joy. "Of course, I'm for it. I've never been abroad, but I'd love to. You're the best, Mark. We're going to the sea. Are you happy?" Mark clapped his hands, and packing started. The couple visited a travel agency to select a suitable tour. The receptionist, a friendly girl, greeted them warmly, offered them coffee, and tried to assist them. "We're delighted that you've chosen our agency. Our manager, Stephen, will assist you," she said. 5 minutes later, Mitchell and Amanda sat down in comfortable chairs, with Amanda holding Mark in her arms, while they waited for the manager. When Stephen approached them, Amanda greeted him but didn't immediately recognize him. Upon closer inspection, she realized he was her ex-boyfriend, Stephen. It turned out he hadn't made any career advancements over the years and remained a manager, just as he was before. Amanda quickly remembered their breakup and decided to play along by pretending not to recognize him. Coolly, she said, "My husband, son, and I would like to choose a family tour to the sea. What options do you have to offer?" Stephen was visibly flustered and unable to provide a proper response. His mind was consumed with thoughts. Is that gorgeous woman really that plain waitress, Amanda? It can't be. Her husband must be wealthy, and the baby is so adorable. He even resembles me. Wait, she was pregnant when I left her. What if he's my son? Lost in his thoughts, Stephen barely heard Mitchell's voice saying, "Hey, man, are you even listening to me? I've been telling you for an hour when we want to go, and you're just mumbling to yourself. Maybe we should try another agency instead. I'm dissatisfied with this type of service." However, Stephen acted as if he hadn't heard it and exhaled before deciding, "Amanda, don't you recognize me? It's me, Stephen. Tell me, is this my son? What's his name?" Mitchell raised an eyebrow and answered stiffly, "This is my son, Mark Ledman. Any more questions? You're obviously out of your mind. Amanda, let's get out of here. We've wasted our time. He's crazy." Amanda calmly replied, "Don't get excited, my love. The man has made a mistake." Mitchell took his wife by the elbow and his son by the hand, and they left the agency. Stephen got a big shock at losing such clients and such a woman. After all, Peggy had left him a long time ago. He never made a career, and he still lived with his parents. The only entertainment for him was beer and soccer on weekends. That was how life went on. Today, seeing Amanda so radiant and happy, he suddenly felt offended and angry with himself. Now, his son called another man daddy and loved him, not Stephen, and what was he left with? Few people were willing to marry a simple manager without a place to live and any prospects. Only Amanda had loved him so sincerely and devotedly. If only he could turn back time, he would never have let her go. But it was too late for that. Amanda and Mitchell went on vacation, enjoying the sun and water, and they came back completely happy and satisfied. A month later, they received another surprise. Amanda found out that she was pregnant. Mitchell hugged and kissed her, spinning around and rejoicing like a child. Amanda thought to herself, "If someone had told me that I would meet a man on the road, marry him, and have his child, I wouldn't have believed it. And now, I'm the happiest I've ever been. That's fate." Soon, Amanda decided to play matchmaker for her best friend and introduced her to Mitchell's friend and partner, Andrew. It turned out to be a great decision. They had a passionate romance, and soon Deborah also became pregnant. Now, Mitchell and Amanda joyfully shouted cheers at their best friend's wedding, wishing them only happiness. The two couples often gathered for joint vacations, grilling kebabs, playing board games, and simply enjoying a friendly and fun time together. To be loved is more valuable than being rich because being loved means being happy, Amanda reflected. Everyone knows this truth, but not everyone is fortunate enough to experience love and be loved in life. However, our heroes managed to achieve it. Today, Janice was feeling unusually happy. The reason? She was just a few days away from her long-awaited vacation. It was her last week at work, and thinking about her upcoming break made her really excited. After finishing her work for the day, she headed home, not knowing about the surprise waiting for her. When she got home that evening, Janice was in a great mood. She spotted her husband's suitcase all packed in the hallway, which made her smile even more. She thought he had taken the initiative to pack for their vacation. Seeing her husband wasn't usually good at packing, but this time he had not only packed everything himself, but also remembered to bring a travel pillow, something she found cute and sweet. "Honey, I'm home," Janice happily called out as she entered the kitchen, but her happiness quickly turned to confusion when she saw Sean sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of wine. He was dressed not in his usual casual clothes, but as if he was about to leave the house. "Sweetheart, what's going on?" "Are you leaving?" Janice asked, sounding confused. "I'm sorry, Janice." "I'm exhausted," Sean began, his voice serious. "I need to leave now. I need time to relax to take care of myself. I think I might be dealing with depression." Janice looked at her husband, feeling bewildered. "But why now? Can't you wait just one more week?" She struggled to understand the sudden change in Sean's mood. "You wouldn't get it, Janice," he replied shortly. "You're always happy at work, with your supportive team around you. Meanwhile, I'm here feeling down and really need a break." Her gaze then fell upon a bank statement lying on the table. To her shock, Scene had moved the money they had saved together into his personal account. Holding the statement, she said with disbelief, "Scene, what about this depression you mentioned? We saved this money for our vacation, our trip to the Bahamas. I've been looking forward to this for so long, and now you're saying we can't go because of your job." Scene responded defensively, his voice tinged with irritation. "I never said my job won't give me time off," he retorted. "Actually, I told them today that this is my last week, and we never decided on a date for our trip. Why plan it now when I can't go with you? You're not thinking straight today, Janice." Feeling hurt and frustrated, she watched him continue packing his things. This wasn't a joke or a passing argument. He was serious about leaving alone without her. "But Sheen, this isn't fair," she pleaded. "We saved that money together. If you can't wait for me, at least take your share. I'll take my leave later and join you or go somewhere else with my part." Scene stopped and stared at her, his expression cold and unsympathetic. "What do you want from me, Janice? Do you want me to stay here and fall apart? How do you expect me to split the money? What if I need it all? If there's anything left, I'll bring it back. And Janice, I need one more thing from you," he went on. "Please don't ruin my mood before this trip. I've already mentally checked out. In fact, I've booked my flight for tonight." Janice was stunned into silence by his boldness, especially learning he had already booked a flight for that very evening. She couldn't find the words to respond. Hurt tightened her throat, and she retreated to her room to avoid watching him leave. She had noticed something was wrong lately, his unusual behavior, coming home late, and having unusually long conversations. She just couldn't understand why he had changed so suddenly. Janice had initially pushed aside her troubling thoughts, afraid to confront them head-on. She didn't want to dwell on suspicions that might turn out to be unfounded. Instead, she tried to calm herself and make sense of the situation. Was she overreacting? Maybe it wasn't so unusual for married couples to take separate vacations sometimes. But then, the loud slam of the front door made Janice jump. Did he just leave without saying goodbye? This can't be happening, she thought to herself. She stepped out of her room only to face the harsh reality that it was indeed happening. Just as tears welled up in her eyes, something on the table caught her attention. Scene had left his phone behind. It was locked with a password she didn't know, but an incoming message briefly lit up the screen, giving her enough time to read it. "I'm already at the airport waiting for you, babe. Give me a call when you get there." Before she could fully process the message, the front door creaked open and Scene walked back in. He looked at Janice suspiciously, grabbed his phone, and quickly kissed her on the cheek. "I've got to go, love. Don't worry about anything." Janice was momentarily stunned, but quickly got dressed and hurried out the door, desperately waving for a taxi. The ride to the airport felt like an eternity, filled with anguish and uncertainty. She didn't know where to find Scene, but unfortunately, they were easy to spot. Their behavior was like that of young lovers, reminding her of high school crushes. The woman with Scene looked noticeably younger than Janice. A gasp escaped her lips as she covered her mouth with her hand, watching them from a distance. So this is it. 5 years of marriage. 5 years of believing we were a happy family, she thought bitterly. Janice and Scene's story began in college. Scene was late for an English class and ended up sitting next to Janice, who was known for her beauty. She was so stunning that many guys were too intimidated to approach her, which ironically made Janice doubt herself. When Scene sat next to her, she was intrigued by his confidence. For Scene, it was less about confidence and more about feeling comfortable next to someone he assumed would never notice him. He thought he had no chance with Janice, so there was no pressure or nerves. When a class discussion paired them up, Scene found a reason to start talking to Janice. That's when he discovered she wasn't just beautiful, but also humble and friendly. Perhaps that's when he realized he could win her over. Over time, Scene became more comfortable talking with Janice, ignoring the social gap he initially perceived. One day, he offered to give her a ride home after class. By the end of the semester, they were officially a couple. After they graduated, they took the next big step and got married. But now, their once happy marriage had fallen apart. Scene had used their savings to take his younger mistress to the Bahamas. While Janice would have to go back to work the next day, she would return to an empty home, waiting for her husband to come back from his getaway. She felt utterly alone, with no one to talk to, seek advice from, or even just share her feelings with. Janice grew up without a father, a void that haunted her throughout her life. She never had a father's guidance, love, or protection, leaving her with a deep sense of incompleteness. People often said she would get over it as she got older, but instead, the emptiness seemed to grow over time. Looking back, she realized she tolerated so much of Sin's unacceptable behavior because she had no example of how a man should treat her. This realization pained her deeply, and now it hurt even more as she found herself alone in her sorrow with no one to turn to. When Janice was 18, she lost her mother. She moved in with her aunt, but she always felt like an outsider. Her aunt tried to treat her as one of her own children, but Janice knew it wasn't the same as her mother's love. She stayed with her aunt's family until she could go to college, holding on to the memories of her mother's love and the hope of finding her own path. In the early days of their relationship, living with Sin felt like paradise to Janice. The world seemed brighter, and their home was filled with joy and love. However, as time passed, she began to see another side of Sin that wasn't so pleasing. She realized he was keenly aware of her vulnerabilities and sometimes used them to his advantage. Sin had a part-time job, which Janice accepted at first. She worked full-time herself without begrudging him his seemingly easier schedule. But gradually, she started feeling an unspoken expectation weighing heavily on her shoulders. All the household chores fell solely to her. Every day, she found herself buried in dirty laundry, battling tough stains and ironing wrinkled clothes until her hands were sore. Washing the never-ending stack of dishes left her hands constantly pruned, reminding her of her unacknowledged efforts. Cooking was another story altogether. Every evening, she juggled pots and pans to prepare meals for Sin, who seemed oblivious in his own world. Despite all this, Janice stayed silent, choosing to swallow her frustration instead of speaking up. "Oh well, it's just one of those things," she would often mutter to herself, trying to downplay her growing resentment. Sin, however, remained oblivious to Janice's increasing exhaustion. He enjoyed the luxury of sleeping in late, often not rising until the sun was high and bright. His days were spent locked away in his computer room, immersed in his virtual world, leaving Janice to manage everything else on her own. One evening, while she was busy cooking, Janice called out, "Sin, could you please help me set the table?" "Sure, love," came the distant reply from the computer room, as usual. Janice sighed, dropping the matter as she had done many times before. Yet the unspoken plea for acknowledgement hung in the air, highlighting the growing distance between them. When Sin's father, Robert, fell seriously ill, Sin asked Janice to move in with them to help care for him. Robert was aging and frail, unable to care for himself alone. As Janice had expected, she ended up taking on the responsibilities of both Sin and his father. Despite this, Janice harbored no bitterness toward Robert. Instead, she treated him like her own father, showing him patience and kindness. Robert grew very fond of Janice, noticing more keenly than she realized the imbalance in how his son treated her. One day, Robert cryptically told her, "You, my dear, were never meant to settle." His words puzzled her, leaving her with a question that would linger in her mind. When Robert's health improved, he suggested they move back to their own home, grateful for his recovery but tired from the added caregiving responsibilities. A few months later, tragedy struck Janice's family again. Her aunt passed away from a heart attack. Although Janice felt a pain that she wasn't treated as warmly as her aunt's own daughters, she deeply mourned her loss. This woman had taken care of her after her mother's death, and Janice held a profound love for her deep in her heart. 3 days into mourning her aunt, Sin exploded at Janice. "She's dead, Janice. Stop bringing her up, and for God's sake, stop crying," he yelled. Janice replied, her voice shaking, "It's only been 3 days." She hadn't even cried much outwardly. Her grief was mostly silent, carried inside her heart. Yet, Sin showed little understanding or patience for her subdued sorrow. Now, in the busy airport, Janice snapped out of her thoughts. Part of her wanted to confront Sin or unleash her anger on his mistress, but it was too late. They had disappeared into the crowd. Amid the hustle of travelers rushing to catch flights, Janice stumbled out onto the street, tears blurring her vision. She bumped into people who deftly avoided her until she found herself in a quiet alleyway with a bench covered in snow. She sat down and let her tears flow freely, losing track of time. Eventually, the biting cold woke her from her sobbing. In her emotional haze, a snowstorm had begun. She stood up, brushing snow off herself and rubbing her frost-coated eyes. Her eyelashes were adorned with delicate ice crystals, a sight that might have been beautiful under different circumstances. As she walked towards the alley exit, she noticed a man huddled on the curb, also covered in snow. Her first thought was that he must be out of his mind to sit in such freezing weather. However, consumed by her own turmoil, she couldn't muster the energy to concern herself with him. As Janice walked past the man, she caught a glimpse of his empty, lost eyes, and her heart went out to him. On impulse, she turned back and approached him. She searched her pockets, found some cash, and offered it to him. He looked at her with melancholy eyes but made no move to take the money, continuing to stare blankly ahead. Janice felt unsure of her actions. "Excuse me, sir. Can I help you with something?" she asked, hoping for a response. There was no reply. She began to doubt herself. Why am I offering help to someone who won't even acknowledge me? In a final attempt, she suggested, "Maybe I could get you a warm tea or something." A faint smile touched the man's lips, giving Janice a glimmer of hope. Without waiting for confirmation, she hurried into a nearby cafe, bought a hot tea and a sandwich, and returned to him. Despite her own troubles, helping the man brought her a sense of relief and purpose. It felt like she could momentarily set aside her own worries. She handed him the hot tea and sandwich. This time, when he looked at her, his eyes conveyed gratitude. As Janice walked away, the warmth in her heart from helping the man lifted her spirits slightly. She was about to hail a taxi when she heard footsteps behind her. Turning around, she saw the man standing there. "I'm sorry, miss. I forgot to thank you for your kindness." "Thank you," he said softly. She smiled faintly. "It was no trouble at all. We all have our struggles. I hope things get better for you." "Thank you," he replied, turning to leave. As he walked away, Janice noticed him shivering in the cold. Suddenly, she felt a strong urge to offer more help. "Wait," she called after him. "Why don't you come to my place? You can warm up there, and I can make you a hot meal." The man looked surprised. "Are you sure? I'm just a homeless man." Janice shrugged, unfazed by the taxi driver's reaction. "Have you seen any royalty around here? Everyone's different, that's all," she reasoned calmly. As she hailed a taxi, the driver initially greeted her warmly but became visibly uneasy when Janice extended her hand to help the homeless man into the vehicle. "I can't believe this. Are you really bringing him with you?" "He's not getting into my car, ma'am." "I'm sorry," the driver said firmly. "Excuse me," Janice responded, surprised by his refusal. "I'm sorry, but just look at him. He's clearly not clean, and I can't risk damage to my car. I'm going to have to cancel your ride. Who's going to cover the cleaning costs?" the driver insisted. Janice, infuriated by the taxi driver's disrespect, clenched her jaw. She reached into her purse and pulled out a wad of cash. "Will this change your mind?" she asked, handing him the money. The driver took the cash, quickly counting it. A smile spread across his face as he realized the amount. "All right then, come on in," he said, gesturing for the homeless man to get into the taxi. During the ride, the driver became more talkative, chatting about the weather and complaining about low fares. When they arrived at Janice's home, the driver dropped them off and sped away promptly. Inside the warm house, the homeless man let out a sigh of relief. "It's so cozy here," he remarked. "I'll warm up some food. Feel free to relax here or take a hot shower. The bathroom has towels and a robe you can use." "Thank you. I feel like I'm intruding, but I appreciate your kindness. It's been tough, especially without a proper bath," he confessed. Janice found herself questioning her sanity multiple times over. She had invited a complete stranger into her home without even knowing his name, and now he was in her bathroom. No matter how much she pondered her decision, she couldn't come up with a rational explanation. It had been a spur-of-the-moment choice, one that would change her life from that day forward. While putting the final touches on the table, the man emerged from the bathroom, looking fresh and clean. Janice couldn't help but stare in surprise. "You look like a completely different person," she finally remarked. The man chuckled in response. "Fresh shower does wonders," he said. In the meantime, Janice had managed to set the table. The guest, who introduced himself as Dylan and had unexpectedly taken the seat usually occupied by Scene, tasted the warm meal Janice had prepared. He genuinely complimented the flavors, not just making passing remarks, but expressing sincere appreciation for the delicious food. As Janice listened to Dylan express his appreciation for her cooking, a realization dawned on her. It had been so long since she had received any form of recognition. Dylan, still a relative stranger, showed a keen eye for detail as he praised the meal's intricate spices and balanced flavors. His genuine and spontaneous appreciation stirred something deep within Janice, a sense of validation and excitement she hadn't felt in ages. It made her realize how accustomed she had become to her efforts being overlooked and unappreciated. With just a few sincere words, Dylan managed to acknowledge her hard work, and it warmed her heart. Feeling a newfound comfort in Dylan's presence, Janice gathered the courage to ask, "So, what's your story?" As soon as the question left her lips, she noticed a sudden change in Dylan's demeanor. His easy smile faded, and his eyes welled up with tears, yet to be shed. It was evident that recounting his past was deeply painful for Dylan. Just 2 years ago, his life had been the epitome of normalcy, a loving wife, a sweet daughter, and a cozy suburban home filled with happiness. They had planned a joyful family trip to celebrate their daughter's 6th birthday, eagerly anticipating the getaway. But fate intervened. On a rain-soaked mountain pass, their car lost control, skidded dangerously, and plunged over the guardrail. In a horrifying instant, Dylan's world was shattered. His wife and daughter, the center of his universe, were tragically taken from him in the accident. While Dylan miraculously survived physically unscathed, emotionally he was devastated beyond measure. As he shared his story with Janice, the pain in his voice resonated throughout the room. Janice could feel the heart-wrenching sorrow embedded in every word. The weight of losing his loved ones was unbearable for Dylan. He was consumed by guilt, blaming himself for their untimely deaths. Living in the house that had once been filled with the lively sounds of his daughter's laughter and his wife's loving whispers became an agonizing ordeal for Dylan. Every wall echoed with memories, each corner a painful reminder of his profound loss. In an attempt to numb the piercing pain and escape his tormenting thoughts, he turned to the bitter comfort of alcohol. What started as a temporary escape soon morphed into a destructive habit. As Dylan withdrew into self-condemnation, he rebuffed every attempt from friends and family to offer support. Their efforts to lift him from despair hit a wall of refusal. Gradually, life lost its brightness, its essence fading into the shadows of his grief. His growing addiction, coupled with the haunting echoes of his family's laughter in the now empty house, began to affect his work. Despite multiple warnings from his employers, Dylan's decline continued unchecked, leading to his eventual dismissal a few months later. With his finances depleted and debts piling up, Dylan was eventually forced out of the home that had once been the heart of his life. His existence, once filled with love and joy, now spiraled into an endless abyss of despair. Each day became a struggle for survival. At first, he scavenged from trash bins, an experience that left him feeling degraded and hopeless. Yet, as Dylan adapted to life on the streets, he discovered that some restaurants were willing to help the homeless by offering surplus food, especially bread products like bagels and sandwiches. Initially driven by guilt over the tragic loss of his family, Dylan found himself entrenched in a destitute lifestyle. However, as time passed, the harsh realities of homelessness began to weigh heavily on him. What had started as a form of self-punishment now threatened to engulf him entirely, trapping him in a cycle of despair that seemed impossible to break free from. Janice listened to Dylan's story with a deep sense of empathy, her heart heavy with compassion. She assured him that he shouldn't blame himself for the tragic accident that took his family. Her words were sincere, urging him to let go of the guilt that had consumed him and to start rebuilding his life. She painted a picture of a hopeful future ahead, one where he could find peace and purpose beyond the shadows of his grief. Throughout their conversation, Janice maintained a warm and steady gaze, her eyes reflecting understanding and kindness. Her gentle smile remained unwavering, offering Dylan solace and acceptance. For Dylan, who had been devoid of such warmth and kindness for so long, Janice's generosity was overwhelming. This encounter with a stranger who not only provided him with basic comforts but also offered genuine empathy and guidance filled him with a newfound sense of hope. The spark ignited in Dylan was unlike anything he had felt in years. Lost in his guilt and sorrow while living on the streets, he had almost forgotten the possibility of a future beyond mere survival. Meeting Janice, receiving her compassion, and hearing her encouraging words sparked a transformation within him. He began to envision a path forward where he could reclaim his life, standing tall despite the pains of his past, and striving towards a future filled with purpose and possibility. The desire for change had transformed from a fleeting idea into a powerful drive within Dylan. He yearned for the warmth of a home, the stability of a job, and the healing power of meaningful connections. Above all, he sought self-forgiveness and the chance to rebuild his life from the ruins of his past. As they finished their meal, Dylan suddenly realized he was still wearing borrowed clothes. Awkwardly, he glanced down and began to ask Janice about returning them, but she responded with a gentle smile. "It's okay, don't worry about it," she reassured him. Feeling a mix of gratitude and discomfort, Dylan started to gather his dirty clothes. Sensing his unease, Janice offered him the use of her washing machine and invited him to stay the night. "I'm sorry for being such a burden. I don't even know how to thank you," he expressed sincerely. "It's all right, Dylan. Don't worry, everything's okay." "Thank you once again," Janice reassured him with a warm smile. Dylan hesitated for a moment before gathering his thoughts and asking his next question. "Janice, may I use your computer, please?" Dylan requested politely, breaking the silence that hung between them. "Of course, feel free," she responded graciously, gesturing towards her laptop. As Dylan began to navigate on her laptop, Janice settled into the living room, her mind swirling with her own stories of sorrow. She felt a deep urge to share her burdens with this stranger who had trusted her with his pain, but the words remained lodged in her throat. Summoning her courage, she stood and made her way over to where Dylan sat. "Dylan," Janice began, her voice trembling slightly, "I hope you don't think less of me for letting a stranger into my home. It's just, my husband, well, I hardly know how to put it. Today he left for a vacation with his mistress." Dylan's fingers paused above the keyboard, and he turned to look at her, his eyes widening in surprise. "Really? That happened?" Janice nodded quietly, offering a brief summary of her situation. Dylan shook his head in disbelief. "I always thought that kind of thing only happened in movies." "I'm really sorry to hear that," he said sincerely. "So, what's your next move?" Dylan gently prompted, encouraging her to continue. "I'm not sure. He might not agree with the idea." Dylan paused, his eyebrows drawing together before he chuckled softly. "Wait, let me understand this. Your husband is out having fun with another woman, and you're worried he might not want a divorce." The situation seemed ridiculous, but it wasn't funny. Looking into Janice's eyes, Dylan saw fear mixed with confusion. She was a kind, innocent woman, beautiful in her simplicity, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. "Are you afraid of him?" he asked gently. "I don't know. We've been together for 5 years, and now I'm not sure what to do." Dylan nodded sympathetically. "Go ahead and get some rest, Janice. We'll figure things out together," Dylan said reassuringly, shaking his head before returning to the computer screen. Tired, Janice decided to lie down on the couch. The next morning, she woke up to the sound of her alarm clock echoing through the room as she walked into the living room. She noticed Dylan was no longer there. On the side table, there was a note he had left behind. "Thank you. Until we meet again." Suddenly, the house felt too quiet. Janice felt a wave of unexpected loneliness wash over her. It was like she had lost something precious. She shuffled into the kitchen to make herself a coffee. The next 2 weeks flew by quickly. Janice threw herself into her work, staying late every night so she could come home exhausted and fall straight into bed. 3 days after Sean left, Janice gathered her courage and began the divorce process. She packed up all of his things, even the robe Dylan had worn, methodically preparing to return them along with the divorce papers. Janice also changed the locks on the house, wanting to ensure her sanctuary remained secure. This house was her inheritance from her parents, the one thing that was undeniably hers, yet she felt a creeping unease that she might have to fight to keep it. Strangely, Janice found herself thinking more about Dylan than Sean. Dylan, who had entered her life as a homeless stranger but turned out to be someone entirely unexpected. Janice had expected devastation over her husband's betrayal, but instead she felt relief. She was no longer living in ignorance, deceived by a man she thought she knew. Often, everyone else knows about the betrayal before the wife does, which can make her appear foolish to others. With her newfound freedom, Janice's mood brightened. She imagined herself making a salad and watching a romantic movie, enjoying quiet evenings at home. One evening after work, her peaceful routine was interrupted as she approached the house. She saw Sean pacing near the entrance. Remembering she had blocked his number, Janice felt a small burst of joy that he hadn't been able to disrupt her day earlier. "Janice, what the hell is going on? What did you do to the lock? And why did you block my number?" "I've been freezing out here," Sean demanded angrily. Janice faced him calmly, a slight smile on her lips as she replied, "I changed the lock, Sean, and I blocked your number." Sean looked surprised briefly, but then his expression turned to annoyance. "Are you out of your mind? Who do you think you are? Give me the keys now and go take a 3-hour walk while I make a call. Let's see how you like it." Janice calmly searched through her bag, causing Sean to smirk in satisfaction. It dawned on her how accustomed she had become to his bullying and how often she had let it slide in the past. But instead of keys, she pulled out a document. "Here, these are divorce papers," Janice said calmly, handing them to Sean. "Whose divorce?" Sean asked, bewildered. "Our Sean. I know you didn't go to the Bahamas alone. I saw you with her. You can collect your things any day, just not today." "Today, I don't want to see you," Janice stated firmly. Sean took a few breaths, then his tone turned surprisingly confident. "Well, guess what? You were supposed to turn a blind eye like a good wife and save our marriage, but you chose the hard way. I'm young, handsome, and interesting. Women are attracted to me." Janice interrupted him, looking towards the driveway where she saw unfamiliar cars pulling in. "Well then, looks like you won't be sleeping on the streets tonight." Sean grabbed her hand tightly. "You're going to do what I say. You thought you could just leave me like that? You're wrong. I'm going to make your life miserable. Give me the keys now." He raised his other hand as if to strike Janice. She closed her eyes, but when she opened them, she realized no one was holding her hand anymore. "Janice, are you okay?" It was Dylan's voice. She couldn't believe it. Dylan stood there, his fist clenched behind him. Sean was struggling in the snow, held back by several strong men standing between Dylan and him. Janice smiled. "It's you." "Yes, it's me. I was worried I wouldn't make it in time." "Any chance you have more of those delicious meals?" Dylan asked, his smile brightening his eyes. Janice nodded, her eyes filling with tears. All the built-up tension and stress had finally found release. She buried her face into Dylan's chest, staining his expensive coat with tears. He gently patted her back, murmuring softly, Hey, it's okay. Everything's okay now." Sean, struggling to stand, watched silently as this emotional reunion unfolded. His earlier arrogance had melted into stunned shock. Dylan's arrival not only protected Janice from Sean's threats, but also marked a turning point in her life. It was the moment she let go of her past and embraced the possibility of a new, happier life ahead. As Sean watched his world collapse before him, his threats went unheard as he began to realize he was losing Janice. Meanwhile, Janice settled in front of the television, brewing fresh tea while Dylan opened up about a part of his life he hadn't shared before. Her words about moving forward and leaving the past behind had deeply resonated with him, guiding him toward a newfound sense of purpose and resilience. Returning to his former profession, Dylan rejoined the Secret Service, much to the relief of his friends and colleagues. However, Janice missed having him around as a Secret Service agent, realizing the unique and critical role he played. His first priority upon returning was ensuring Janice's safety, setting up a protective detail to watch over her. "You saved me, Janice," he confessed. "I couldn't ignore the kindness you've shown me." Janice looked at him in astonishment. "Secret Service, really?" she repeated, trying to grasp this new information. Dylan nodded, taking a sip of his tea. "Yes, I've been with the Secret Service for years. When I lost my family, I lost myself too. I walked away from everything and fell into a dark place. I couldn't even bring myself to reconnect with my colleagues. But you reminded me that life is worth living, that it's possible to start over even when it feels like the world has ended," Dylan shared, his voice reflecting the depth of his journey. Janice was silent, processing the revelation. A mix of surprise, confusion, gratitude, and something else flickered in her eyes. After a moment, she managed a small smile. "Thank you for everything," she said softly. The peaceful quiet that settled over Janice's home now starkly contrasted with the earlier turmoil. The events had unfolded quickly, leaving Janice still trying to catch her breath. Dylan had left without making promises or revealing his next steps, yet his gratitude toward Janice was clear as he departed. In an unexpected twist, despite Sheen's actions, Dylan found a silver lining. With a touch of sarcasm, he even thanked Sheen for his affair. If it hadn't been for Sheen's betrayal, Dylan and Janice might never have crossed paths. This unexpected turn added another layer of complexity to the day's events. 2 days passed with Janice settling into a routine of work and quiet evenings at home. The intense emotions from the recent events had started to calm down, leaving her with a sense of peace mixed with curiosity about what lay ahead. One evening, after a long day at work, Janice walked home along her usual route. As she approached her front gate, she saw a figure that made her heart skip a beat. There stood Dylan, bathed in the soft glow of the evening light, his silhouette casting a long shadow on the pavement. He was looking at her with a warm smile, holding a bouquet of flowers whose vibrant colors stood out against the dimming daylight. He looked remarkably different from their last meeting. Dylan was well-groomed and neatly dressed, a stark contrast to the disheveled man she had first encountered. His eyes, once filled with despair, now sparkled with hope and perhaps even happiness. In that moment, Janice recalled the words of her ex-husband's father, "You, my dear, were never meant to settle." Now, she understood the true meaning behind those words.